So it's 1:30, January 8th, 2026. This is our first CodeX group meeting, and welcome to everyone. We're excited to get our group meetings going again. This is always such a fun group where we bring in early stage legal tech entrepreneurs or researchers to just share what they're working on and have a little bit of a discussion around it. So today, as our first presenters of this year, we have Naidis and Igor Sheremet, the co-founders of Aparti, which is a new AI-based technology for family law. We're excited to learn more about it from you. All right, so with that, again, welcome Anna and Igor. I'll turn it over to you. You have about 10, 15 minutes to just share with us what you're working on. And then let's engage the group in a little bit of a discussion. All right, so over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining your first session of the year. It's an honor for us. Let me start it. Let me talk a little bit about myself and about our co-founders, and Igor will share more about our company. My name is Anna, and I have over 15 years, actually 17 years of experience in technology. My main specialization is product management, strategy, and operation. I used to work for Fortune 500 companies like DHL and Thomson Reuters, and then in top YC startups in Silicon Valley, and recently in one of the AI startups. I am Chief Product Operation Manager, Chief Product Officer, actually, and we have another co-founder, Ingrid. She's our Chief Technology Officer, who also has over 12 years of experience in technology. She was one of the first Uber engineer, and she was one of the Netflix engineers and Chime. And we used to work with her together in YC startup. She was my engineer, I was her product manager. And that was the time when we became also friends, and I learned that Ingrid started going through divorce. And that was around 5 years ago. And around 3 years ago, I met our third co-founder, Igor, our CEO.
And that's me. I have more than 17 years of entrepreneurship. And first of all, thank you so much for having us. We're really excited. So I have more than 17 years of entrepreneurship and international business development experience. I built a few companies before, sold one of the companies, closed companies that were unfortunately didn't work out. And I'm also divorced. And I'm a CEO of Aparti, where we believe divorce, it's not the end. We believe it's a fresh start. And let me tell you, divorce sucks. It's heartbreaking, financially devastating, operationally extremely archaic. And nearly 1 million couples in the United States are going through this process every single year. They're spending $15 billion, and divorces cost U.S. economy over $300 billion in lost productivity. And it's also very painful for lawyers. They're drowning in the admin work they cannot bill for. And so we got together and decided that we're going to change it. But we're not trying to fix what's not working in this process. We're actually aiming to rebuild it from the ground up. So Aparti is building the operating system for family law. We're building an AI platform that automates the most painful parts of the process. And here's how it works. First, intake. Our conversational AI guides clients of law firms through the intake process, collecting all financial and personal data. Second is asset division. Our asset division engine that we're building helps to provide predictability on the potential outcomes of the divorce. So law firms have ability to predict what's the revenue going to be, and families are able to predict what's the potential fair split of assets will be. And the third part, we generate court-ready documents with direct e-filing. The value prop for family law firms is pretty powerful. We calculated with our design partners that with our solution, they unlock over 140,000 in new annual revenue by automating work that they can bill for. And we're also bringing a lot of financial analysis works that's usually being outsourced to third parties back in-house to the law firm. So, for example, our co-founder Ingrid's divorce, she already spent over $500,000 on her divorce, and around 80,000 of that money went to third-party accountants. The system we're building will allow law firms to bring this back. So, and Ingrid could have spent, let's say, 20,000 instead of 80. We're right now working with open California data, over 140,000 divorce cases. Plus, we use the information from data from our design partners firms. And the way we're building our solution is that every case that going through our system, every case that law firm use Aparti for, makes our model better and improves it. Pretty straightforward business model. We're charging $500 per seat per lawyer, basically, allowing them to manage 10 cases through the system. Every extra case, additional $100 for us. There are approximately 200,000 family lawyers in the United States, so it's a pretty big market for us. We're in terms of like competitive landscape, there are a lot of solutions that are focusing on users, retail side of the like Hello Divorce, divorce.com. There's solutions that are working with consumers. We're strictly focusing on B2B, on a B2B side. There are other solutions like case management systems like Clio, My Case, Filevine. We look at them as partners. We're actually in conversation with Clio right now to build partnership. Yeah, we're working with 10 law firms right now in conversations with largest firms in California and Oklahoma to utilize our solution. We have pretty good backing by Antler, SPC, like fantastic angels from Cursor, Snapchat. Yeah, and that's where we are right now.
Great. Do you think you can show us a little bit of how the system works and do a little bit of a demo?
Oh, I will need a couple seconds to be honest to set up. I was not prepared for the demo, and just because it's also will be translated on the YouTube, I will kind of be careful about this.
But we can set up a demo with everybody who wants to.
Yes,
a demo.
yes. Just because as the startup, you need to be careful of what's going on and which technology you are exposing.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, well, great. So let's open it up to see if folks have any questions. I'm curious as to what is it that, what is the general workflow here? So this is sort of like, you're not bringing in customers or clients to the firm, right? So it's the firm has this sort of as a back office technology in a sense, and to help with what exactly is it like? I know there's like some separation of assets and those kinds of calculations, but is it helping with negotiations? Is it helping with what exactly does the system do?
Let's split the question into the two parts. Yes, we're working with the B2B and we're helping law firm to streamline work flows, but we also understand that there's a lot of people who are going through divorce, and we are helping people who coming to us to also connect them with the trusted law firms we are working with. It's like our great ability to connect the dots.
Yeah, to be fairly honest, we started also as a DIY solution for consumers. We went crazy viral on Twitter. We had like 400,000 views in 48 hours as a divorce as a service solution. Um, we have some thoughts in the way how we can channel clients to our clients, right? To refer clients to the law firms, because we already have pretty good inbound of regular people who are coming in. But what we do, as you said, there's a lot of back office. So right now, like the biggest firms, what they're facing, they're not able to properly process the inbound that they have of the clients. They don't know how to identify and qualify those leads. So that's the part of the prediction model that we're building. So based on the intake information, we have ability to provide them with this information. And of course, if you're familiar, like I hope nobody familiar with this process, but if you're familiar with this process, there's a lot of anxiety and going back and forth with the client. So we're the first solution that actually have the portal for the client to engage in a conversational AI, to not to take time from lawyers, because what we learned from them that they want to focus on lawyering rather than just endless
Admin
email
work,
admin
yeah.
work. Yeah. I see there are a couple questions.
Yeah. So, yeah, Beat's asking whether you had faced any unauthorized practice of law issues thus far, and could law firms kind of replicate what you do using LLM models, and what really is sort of like what you consider like the your kind of secret sauce that makes this an investable startup. Is it a divorce law firm operating system only, or what is it? And then David also would like to know more about whether you had any thoughts on unauthorized practice of law issues, and what's the greatest liability risk that you see?
Yeah. Let's start from like reverse about the liability. We see that and this is a great question. Thank you so much. Great questions. We see, first of all, there's, of course, the usage of LLMs. Always for the law is the question of hallucination and accuracy of the suggestions. We are working very carefully with the data family law firms already have, like they digitalize the cases they have to understand the historical outcomes of the cases, and our predictions are recommendations, like how to process the case, what could be possible outcome, what could be possible length, and for the law firm, what could be the revenue model. Can they do this themselves? If they have a big technological wing, probably they can start. But the beauty of like being technologically advanced and having like a great experience in the past, that law firm continue doing work with their clients, and we're helping streamline, as Igor said, we're helping streamline the processes. We're helping that they can take more cases on board, because people is a bottleneck in any workflow for administrative work. About unauthorized law practice, I think this is something we will learn down the way together with the law firms. There's no like a strict answer.
I would say we're not giving any illegal advice or something like that. We're literally building the system that allows like law firm to operate in a better way.
Yeah. And we're working with them to understand what law firm needs. It's not coming from the idea, oh, let's build this, without like talking with the customers.
Yeah, it's not that we're
well, traditionally, so well, legal tech companies frequently sort of draw the line between the business of law side of things and the sort of the practice of law side, right? And the practice of law is where you dispensing legal advice and doing legal reasoning, and the business of law is like all the sort of optimizing the operations and the workflows of like a law firm business. And it feels a little bit like you're a little bit doing both. I'm not sure though. But if you're helping, I guess if you're helping to learn from like, the past, kind of cases from a law firm, then the idea would be that, looking through these documents, whatever, divorce settlement documents and negotiation documents, then you're trying to train your AI to sort of replicate a little bit what lawyers do, right? And then, you still have like a human lawyer presumably providing oversight and, debugging and doing quality assurance. And then sort of the end product will be reviewed by a human. And so maybe there's kind of less of a risk of unauthorized practice of law. But there's still the issue that, if your document that you're generating or something that is meant to reflect, what a lawyer does, and, it is the lawyer just doesn't, do proper quality assurance, then it's a liability for the law firm, right? And then eventually it's going to be, so you have to like, have some kind of, way to think about that risk, right? And I guess.
Yeah, right now, I think the way we look at this, we are providing this information to the law firm and their dashboards, right? What they're using. It's as you mentioned, it's for them mostly. It's not that we're generating the documents that we're generating. These are like standard forms where you utilize the information that we collect from the intake, and it goes also always under review of the end user, who is the law firm.
Got it. Yeah. So,
but
okay.
it makes sense. A great question. And in terms of like investable product, I think what makes product investable is the scalability of this. And as I mentioned before, there's a huge market, and we're members of San Francisco Bar Association. We're actively participating in events and organization with American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers. So we're actively working with them, and we see how this specific product built for this pretty big niche is investable and scalable. What's the most important part? So yeah.
So you're piloting it at the moment with some of these early adopting law firms, and what is it sort of that that turns out to be easier than you anticipated, or what turns out to be harder than you anticipated in this process?
Yes, that's also a good one. We are piloting right now with few solo practitioners, and we're collecting feedback on the way how they're operating. I think what's interesting is, as Igor mentioned, working with the more enterprise size law firms, because they have a different way of setting up their workflows. They have more people involved. They usually have paralegals. They usually have lawyers who are doing intake process, lawyers who are doing like different setups. I think what also a few of our colleagues are mentioned, the way how the lawyer will be engaging with the software, is it a paralegal engaging with the software, or it's a lawyer engaging with the software? I think there will be a lot of understanding of the features which are scalable, because we want to build a product which will be used by multiple law firms, and we're starting from California, and we're planning to be multi-state compliance. I think that's another interesting challenge, how to cover law in the different states and in the different counties.
Got it. So Abid's also asking about how do you scale it? Is it more about replicable workflows, or do you also like sort of predict outcomes? Like, do you make recommendations around, kind of asset divisions and yeah. And I also ask, why Oklahoma? I suppose just the opportunity offered itself, but
yeah,
it's the hotspot for divorce.
It's naturally happened. How the things happen. How we met at the Legal Tech Summit, right? Same way I met with the largest family law firm in Oklahoma at the same event. That was a pure accident, but they're very tech savvy and advanced, and they're looking into a different type, not built into like billable hours. They're looking to provide this service as a flat fee on a flat fee basis. They're looking into more efficient way to do that, and they have their data set. So that's why it's one firm in Oklahoma. Everybody else is in California. That's where our major focus is. It's just an interesting use case. That's why Oklahoma. In terms of workflows, yes, there's a part with workflows. That's definitely, if you dive deeper into family law, it's crazy how outdated everything there is. Literally solutions that right now, some of the solutions on the market, they look like Windows 98.
And they're repeatable, as you mentioned, they're repeatable across the different states. And that's a for prediction of the length of the case. There's like could be some tweaks based on the state and the country.
It's definitely answering the question about the state. That's here. We're starting with California, but we already know how to do this in a multi-state compliant way. But step by step. First thing is California.
Yeah. There are also some technological back-end secrets how to get like updated information about the different states. And good question about the PAI. I also will cover this. Yes, we are working with the two type of the data, as Igor mentioned. One is available data, like there's about 140,000 open cases, California cases, which can with the metadata, which you can use and train based on the information there, like what's the events, how long those events are taking. And then the second one is proprietary data from the law firms. And that one, we are using only redacted information. We don't need the name, gender, this kind of information, anything like personal identification data do not need to build the good outcome. And this is also one of our discussions, like one of the important discussions with the law firm, that it should be redacted from when they're passing it to us.
Okay, so David made a quick comment. He said, he recommended to look at Professor Anthony Niblett's research on the difficulties of using AI for prediction. And some useful insights there. I want to go back to something you said before, Igor, on that using your system, law firms have discovered ways to monetize things that they can normally not monetize. Can you just kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
It's a little in a way. So the way it works, there are a few ways, right? The way they can monetize is there's a lot of financial analysis involved in a little more complex cases with asset division. So a lot of this work is usually being outsourced, and we're with our solution, we allow this to be brought back in-house. So all the analysis of financial situation.
Okay, this is normally to handle something, but it's usually handled by accountants.
Usually handled by third parties, accountants, right? Now they can do this in-house and basically help families to save money and get extra income for them. But also the work that they cannot bill for is like this a ton of small interactions back and forth with clients. Which we almost fully eliminate with conversational part. Okay.
So Abid's asking, today he's going to get a gold star. He's like asking like a lot of great questions. So, so the next one is what integrations does the platform currently support?
Let me just also make a quick note that I read the message from and sorry in advance from Luciana. Yeah, I think super excited to talk with you. Let's chat in the LinkedIn for sure.
Oh,
Um,
apologies, I missed that one. So that's
yeah,
it
yeah.
was kind of okay. All right,
Uh,
good. All right. Yeah.
Integrations, yes. We are working with a few companies right now to integrate that it will help us with a faster adoption with the clients, with the medium to enterprise size law firms. It's a Clio and my case, which means we can offer to the law firms who are already using those systems that the data stored in those systems could be also read by our system. They don't need to integrate anything, transfer anything. It will be much easier. And then we can do some customization of the analytics and information inside those systems. Um,
But you
regarding
expect like a lot of firms are like on Clio, for example, right?
um,
So do you expect them to just move everything into your system, or is it just are you you know tying into Clio and you're doing you're providing your functionality on top of like their Clio infrastructure?
uh, we will work with them with the companies right now and with the law firm right now who is using those system, and then we will see how the adoption is going and what they're looking for, because I think family law firms are they're looking for automation. They're looking more for the white glove experience. It's all down the road.
Okay.
There are a few other questions.
Yeah, on motion drafting, if you support motion drafting,
Um,
um, and it's maybe, because like a divorce could be like, go to court or like be handled outside of courts. Does that like, are you agnostic to that, or are you like specializing in any aspect of that?
about drafting, our approach here, we're not going to do the drafting. There are 10,000 startups that right now using AI to do drafting, and it's just not our business. We maybe will use it in the future, one of the solutions that win the market. But I think it's no need to compete with something that ChatGPT already can do, basically. And a lot of lawyers use, like, not officially, but using it and then just rereading and reviewing it.
Okay. Okay, and then maybe the last question, because we're coming up on time, is Victoria, who's asking about the business model. What's your pricing strategy? You talked a little bit about it before. Maybe you want to elaborate. And
Yeah,
I think and she says you're given that you're offering it to B2C and B2B, but it's really only B2B at this point, right?
correct. And well, our initial idea was B2C. That's how we went viral. But then we fully focused on B2B. And right now, our ICP was for a while was small and medium practices, where our plan was to charge is like $500 per 10 cases that they're managing every month through our system, and every extra case additional $100. And that's the initial one. And now with enterprise clients, we're in conversations with these large firms to define what's going to be the best structure for them in terms of they're processing thousands of cases, right? And processing, I mean, they have cases like 1,000 cases every month that they're working on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a long process.
What's the biggest need you have right now, and how could we potentially help you along the way as a community?
Yeah, as we discussed, first of all, we're super thankful for questions, and it's a great opportunity. We're super excited to dive deeper and see how we can work together on, because our goals are going like beyond just simply doing some AI and family law. We think there's an opportunity for us to work together. the main needs right now, we're looking for great, open-minded family lawyers who are interested in this, and we're happy to talk about the building prediction models
Yep.
in the law.
Yep. That's another, Igor was hit the nail. Yes, exactly. And maybe anyone already experienced with the prediction models, any challenges? We see, David, thank you so much for recommendations. We'll take a look into this. We're always open to chat, to discuss anything to do better product, greater product.
Cool, great. And if people wanted to reach you, what's a good way to reach you? Or do you want to maybe put your contact info into the chat here? So
Yep.
if anyone wanted to
I
reach
will-
out.
I will leave our emails, and please feel free. We have very unique last names and names. Reach out on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, great. All right, Anna and Igor, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing Aparti's story. Please keep us posted. Good luck. Hopefully some of the folks in this group will reach out and help you along the way.